Hello, this is Photography Gamer. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm reviewing Atlas Fallen. The game is out on PlayStation, Xbox and PC. Atlas Fallen is an action role-playing game developed by Deck 13 Interactive. The game sees you rise from rags to riches as you explore a vast open world in search of huge boss creatures that you can vanquish with these wonderfully sand-infused weapons. The game can be played in solo, but it also has an online co-op mode. Okay, so what is the game like to play? Well, first things first, you've got to create your character, and it's got a nice set of options from different hairstyles to some unique face parts. Then it's off into the open world to start the industry standard and very long and dull tutorial. This will just set you up with the basic principles. But I would say the main thing in Atlas Fallen to focus on is the combat, because it is a combat driven experience. You can equip a variety of different weapons acting as your primary or secondary form of attack. You can also block using sand to do so, forming a sand skin shell, which is only works for a small amount of time, but it's one of your special powers. And your powers also extend to a variety of cool unlockable special moves, and it allows you to shape your combat loadout to suit your preferred style. The other main aspect of combat to consider is momentum. As you fight, you feel this blue momentum meter. As it reaches a certain threshold, you can unleash a series of absolutely explosive and visually stunning attacks. During this process, your weapons will grow in size, but momentum is only temporary, and you need to maintain it with constant combat moves. In terms of the enemies, generally I'd say they're pretty varied. The bosses are also quite visually impressive, and they've often got multiple body parts that you need to target, akin to something like Horizon Zero Dawn. But I would say the boss fights do become a bit of a chore on the harder difficulty levels. Like, they feel a bit like a bullet sponge that you would get in other games that take an absolute eternity to take down. Also, combat, it's not as fluid as it might look. It does look fluid. You look at the footage, you think, wow, that's very slick. But it does have this slight jarring quality in the midst of a fight with the controls. It lacks this fast twitch responsiveness that I was perhaps expecting. Another part of the game that felt a little bit muddled was the loadout setup. Like, there's so many different elements to factor in, from your gauntlet, equipped weapons, the moveset, the idols, stones, essence, shards, etc, etc, etc. It did take me quite a long time to get my head around it all, and I'd say it could have really benefited from just making all of this stuff a lot more streamlined, because it's unnecessarily complex. Now, one part of the game that I really loved was the way that your character can get around. You can do the old double jump routine with multiple dashes, which means you can almost fly in these kind of balletic level traversal segments, reaching great heights, leaping chasms, etc. But for me, the standout part of getting around was the sand surfing, it felt like the old snowboarding games like SSX. Honestly, it's such a simple addition, but it also is such a masterstroke. It makes what is essentially quite boring open world exploration turn into something that's actually quite smooth and quite, pleasing. Finally, let's look at the game world and the story. The world itself is large, but it's not too big. It's pretty varied in terms of its infrastructure. You've got deserts, you've got underground kingdoms, otherworldly realms. It has some cool verticality too, which is perfect for those platforming segments, and on the whole, I'd say it's very beautiful to behold. The story, well, it's the usual by the numbers video game story. You're a nobody, you rise to prominence by way of some sort of old artifact. You gain powers, you become a godlike character, etc. We all know the drill by now. Now, there is a fair amount of narrative with some branching conversations. How much those conversations actually make any impact on the game, it was really unclear. It didn't seem like they made a great deal of difference what you chose, but there you go. You have a bit of chit-chat to get involved in. Okay, visually, graphics, I would say the general animations, they're good. The environments are lovely to behold. Although there are some meshing issues with the terrain. Here's a few examples. main character does also run in a bit of a weird way, but other things like the menus were very clean, very clear, very accessible, and I'd say it's also got a nice photo mode for people who like taking pictures. Now I will go into more depth on the photo mode in a separate VP guide episode. I'll put a link to that video in the comments and the description, but overall it's a good mode, good settings. There's a few issues with it, like the slider usability is a bit erratic, but generally it's not a bad photo mode. Sound wise, the music and the sound effects were pretty well suited. The voice acting, it's a bit of an up and down experience. Some voices felt very good, some perhaps not. Okay, good and bad points. What's good? The visuals are impressive, combat looks and feels great in the early stages, level traversal and the general getting around is very smooth, and the addition of co-op will no doubt improve the experience, although I only played it solo. Bad points. The loadout system is convoluted and unnecessarily complex. Combat is not as fluid as it appears, and the story is video game journey by the numbers. We've all seen it 100 times before. Okay, verdicts. Atlas Fallen is a solid open world action adventure game that in the end is just AAA gaming by the numbers. You've got a large open world to explore, you've got lots of things to keep you busy, and the way you get around the levels is actually quite good fun. The combat too, not too bad, although perhaps not as responsive as you would hope. On the whole, I did enjoy it. Maybe after about 6 to 7, maybe 8 hours, I was starting to lose a bit of interest. But then again, that's something that I would say all of these AAA open world games suffer from. Unless the story is absolutely compelling and the characters are absolutely amazing, it's kind of hard to stay on board for more than a certain amount of time. But I would say the satisfying combat and the really cool level traversal does keep you on board. It kept me going to the end. I mean, I wouldn't say this is a classic, I wouldn't say it's an elite game, but it is a good, solid game that is worth a look if you've played all the other type of games in this genre. So scoring, I would give Atlas Fallen, I would give it a 7 out of 10. It's a borderline recommendation. It's not a classic, but it's okay. It's a bit of mild entertainment if you want to play something to tide you over to something else. Okay, that's the review. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, maybe even join the channel, who knows. But this is Photography Gamer, signing off. Cheers.